You're sitting in your seat, minding your business, and suddenly someone's standing over you saying you don't belong. Your heart starts racing. Everyone's staring. Phones come out. And in that moment, you have a choice: back down or stand your ground. Now, what if I told you that one man's refusal to move from his airplane seat didn't just change his day, but rewrote the rules for millions of travelers? This isn't some made-up Hollywood script. This is real. This happened. And by the end of this story, you'll see how 45 minutes of confrontation sparked a revolution. So here's what went down. Marcus Chen looked like your average traveler that day. Faded jeans, gray hoodie, beat-up leather briefcase. Nothing flashy. Nothing that screamed, "Look at me." He was just trying to get to Chicago, sitting quietly in his first-class seat, scrolling through his phone like the rest of us do. Then it started. A flight attendant, let's call her Sarah, walked up with that look. You know the one. That mix of suspicion and superiority that makes your stomach drop before she even opens her mouth. "Sir, you need to move to the back. This section is for premium passengers only." Marcus didn't panic. Didn't raise his voice. Just looked up calmly and held up his boarding pass. Seat 1A. First class. But Sarah wasn't having it. She squinted at his pass like she was examining a counterfeit bill. "That has to be a mistake. Let me see your ID." Around them, passengers started pulling out their phones. Someone began live tweeting the whole thing. Because in 2025, nothing stays private. Everything's content. Everything gets recorded. Sarah called over her colleague Jessica, and the two of them started whispering just loud enough for nearby passengers to hear. "This gentleman seems confused about his seat assignment," Sarah said, dripping with condescension. Marcus stayed buckled in. Calm. Collected. "Ma'am, I understand there might be confusion. Could you please check your system?" Sarah's fingers danced across her tablet. She frowned, tapped again, shook her head like she'd caught him in a lie. "Sir, our records show you purchased an economy ticket. You'll need to move to coach where you belong." Where he belongs. Let those words sink in for a second. Marcus pulled out his phone and showed her his mobile boarding pass. First class, seat 1A, paid for 3 weeks ago. An older white gentleman in the row behind him leaned forward with that fake helpful tone. "Son, maybe you should just take your real seat. No need to cause trouble." Sarah nodded like he'd just solved world hunger. "Exactly. Are you sure you didn't mean to book coach?" These mistakes happen when people aren't familiar with the booking process. The insult hung there like smoke in a closed room. Marcus's jaw tightened. Just barely, but you could see it. He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a platinum airline status card. Placed it on his tray table like he was laying down a trump card. 340,000 miles flown with this airline. Platinum status for 6 consecutive years. Sarah barely glanced at it. "Anyone can get those cards online now, sir. Think about that for a moment." Here's a man showing multiple forms of valid documentation, and she's dismissing everything without even checking her system properly. Why? What made her so absolutely certain he didn't belong? "I'm going to need you to gather your belongings and move to your assigned seat," Sarah said with finality. Meanwhile, up in her seat, a passenger was live-streaming the whole mess. Her followers were watching in real time as a black passenger got systematically humiliated. The tweets started flying. Atlantic Airways discrimination began trending. Retweets multiplied by the second. Then the captain showed up. Captain Rodriguez walked out of the cockpit with that military bearing, silver hair perfectly styled, uniform pressed to perfection. He looked at Marcus once. Just once. Hoodie, jeans, sneakers. His mind was made up before anyone said a word. "What's the situation?" he asked Sarah, not even glancing at Marcus. "Passenger in the wrong seat won't move to coach where he belongs." Rodriguez sized Marcus up with cold eyes. "Sir, you're holding up departure. I need you to take your correct seat immediately." Marcus looked up, still calm. "Captain, I'm in my correct seat. First class, 1A. Here's my boarding pass, my ID, and my frequent flyer card." Rodriguez didn't look at any of them. Not one. "Son, I've been flying for 15 years. I know when someone's trying to scam an upgrade." "Sarah, call ground security." And just like that, the situation escalated from uncomfortable to dangerous. Marcus pulled out his phone and started recording. For the record, it's 2:47 p.m. Flight 447. I'm being asked to leave my paid first-class seat despite having proper documentation. Sir, put that phone away, Rodriguez commanded. You're being disruptive. I'm documenting discrimination, Marcus replied evenly. The woman in seat 3B, Dr. Patricia Voss, we'd learn later, spoke up. Wait. He showed you his boarding pass. Why aren't you checking it? Sarah's face flushed red. Ma'am, please don't interfere. This gentleman clearly purchased an economy ticket and is trying to get a free upgrade. How do you know that? Dr. Voss pressed. Experience, Sarah said curtly. Experience. That's what she called it. Not bias. Not prejudice. Experience. Marcus made a quiet phone call. Brief. His voice low. Yeah, I'm running late. Start without me. I'll handle this personally. Rodriguez overheard and got suspicious. Handle what? Who are you calling? Marcus didn't answer. He was too busy documenting everything. Every word, every action, every expression on their faces. Meanwhile, the live stream was exploding. The viewer count jumped by 300 in minutes. Comments flooded in faster than anyone could read them. This is 2025. How is this still happening? Sue them. Record everything. Someone find out who this guy is. 2 security officers arrived. One of them, Santos, approached professionally. Sir, can I see your boarding pass? Marcus handed it over without protest. Santos examined it carefully, compared it to Marcus's ID, then looked at his radio. This shows first-class seat 1A. It's clearly fraudulent, Sarah jumped in. He's trying to scam an upgrade. Santos looked at her skeptically. Ma'am, these boarding passes come directly from your system. How would it be fraudulent? Sarah faltered. Well, these people know how to manipulate the system. These people. The words landed like a slap. Even passengers who hadn't been paying attention looked up, because these people isn't subtle. It never is. Santos, who'd heard those words before and knew exactly what they meant, turned to Marcus with a different tone. Sir, would you mind stepping off the aircraft for a moment? Just to verify everything with the gate agent. It was reasonable. Respectful. Marcus nodded and stood. As he grabbed his briefcase, his phone buzzed. A text flashed briefly before he closed it. Dr. Voss, standing nearby, caught a glimpse. Board meeting moved to conference room A, emergency session. She frowned. What kind of emergency board meeting would a coach passenger know about? The departure board showed the flight delayed by 23 minutes now. A ground supervisor named Janet Williams arrived with purposeful strides. She'd worked her way up from baggage handler to supervisor over 12 years. She prided herself on handling difficult situations. What's the holdup? She asked. Santos handed her Marcus's documents. Janet examined everything with theatrical thoroughness. Boarding pass, ID, frequent flyer card. She looked from the documents to Marcus, then back again. Mr. Chen, these appear to be in order. However, given the crew's concerns about your behavior, I think it's best if we reseat you and coach for this flight. Marcus's voice stayed level. What behavior? I was sitting quietly in my assigned seat. You're being argumentative with the flight crew. I was providing documentation when they claimed I was in the wrong seat. Janet's expression hardened. Sir, arguing with me won't help your cause. You can take your assigned coach seat, or you can take the next flight. Those are your options. Back on the plane, the live stream had gone viral. The hashtag was trending nationwide. Viewer count hit 1,500 and climbing. The commentary was running live, unfiltered, raw. They've forced him off the plane now. This man has a first-class ticket, showed multiple forms of ID, and they're treating him like a criminal. This is what discrimination looks like in 2025. Other passengers from the flight had gathered in the terminal to watch. Several were recording. A teenage girl was streaming on TikTok. A businessman was updating his LinkedIn feed. The story was spreading like wildfire. Marcus looked at his watch. Janet noticed it was expensive. Very expensive. More than her monthly salary. Sir, I need your decision. Coach seat or next flight? May I speak with your district manager? Marcus asked calmly. Janet actually laughed. The district manager? Sir, I'm the senior supervisor on duty. I have full authority here. I understand your position. However, I'd like to escalate this to your district manager. You can file a complaint online like everyone else. Dr. Voss stepped forward from the crowd. Excuse me, but I was on that plane. This man was sitting quietly in his seat. He showed his boarding pass, his ID, everything. Why exactly is he being removed? Janet turned to her sharply. Ma'am, this is between us and Mr. Chen. Please return to your seat. I'm a paying customer too, Dr. Voss replied firmly. And I'm witnessing what appears to be discrimination. A businessman from first class joined her. I saw the whole thing. The flight attendant never checked his documents properly. She just assumed he was in the wrong seat. Janet felt control slipping away. More passengers were gathering. Phones were everywhere, recording everything. She needed to reassert authority. Sir, she said to Marcus, her voice harder now, you can take the coach seat I'm offering, or you can leave the airport. Those are your only options. Marcus pulled out his phone and made another call. This one lasted 47 seconds. His voice was too low for most to hear, but Dr. Voss caught fragments. Emergency board meeting, conference room A, now. Dr. Voss frowned deeply. Board meeting? Marcus ended the call and addressed the growing crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for this delay. I know you all want to get to Chicago on time. His tone had shifted. More authoritative. Several passengers noticed the change immediately. Janet sensed something shifting too, something she didn't understand yet. Sir, who are you calling? My office, Marcus replied simply. Your office. Marcus reached into his briefcase and withdrew a business card holder. He selected one card with deliberate precision and handed it to Janet. She read it. Her face went pale. Actually pale. Oh my God, Dr. Voss whispered, reading over Janet's shoulder. The businessman from first class pulled out his phone and started Googling furiously. His eyes went wide as he read the results. Holy shit, he muttered, loud enough to be heard. Chen Industries. They're worth billions. The live streamer caught the exchange. Wait. Did someone just say billions? Chat, what's happening? Who is Chen Industries? Her viewers were already ahead of her, researching and posting results in the comments. Chen Industries just announced $2.4 billion in revenue last year. They own like 847 companies. This guy isn't some random passenger. Atlantic Airways is about to get sued into oblivion. Janet stared at the business card in her trembling hands. Mr. Chen, this doesn't change anything. You were being disruptive. But her voice cracked. The conviction was gone. Marcus looked at his watch again. That expensive watch that told more than just time. In about 3 minutes, you're going to receive a call from your headquarters. I suggest you answer it. What kind of call? The kind that comes from your board of directors. The crowd had swelled to about 30 people now. Airport security was trying to manage the situation, but the live streams kept multiplying. The hashtag had over 2,000 tweets. News outlets were starting to pick up the story. Captain Rodriguez appeared, looking flustered. What's going on out here? We need to depart. Santos filled him in quietly, watching Rodriguez's expression change as he listened. CEO of what? Rodriguez asked, his voice tight. Chen Industries. Major corporation. Billions in revenue. Rodriguez looked at Marcus with completely different eyes now. The hoodie and jeans didn't look casual anymore. They looked like the clothes of someone who didn't need to impress anyone. Someone who could wear whatever he wanted because his bank account did the talking. Janet's radio crackled to life. Supervisor Williams, please contact headquarters immediately. Priority 1. She looked at Marcus. He checked his watch one more time. Right on schedule, he said quietly. Dr. Voss stepped closer. Sir, I'm so sorry this happened to you. This is completely unacceptable. Thank you, Marcus replied. But this isn't about me anymore. What do you mean? Marcus looked around at the crowd, at the phones recording everything, at the airport security trying to contain a situation that had grown far beyond their control. This is about making sure it doesn't happen to anyone else. The live stream viewer count hit 3,000. Major news outlets were calling their reporters. Atlantic Airways' stock price, which had been stable all day, suddenly dropped 1.2% in 15 minutes. Wall Street was noticing. Janet's radio crackled again, more urgently this time. Supervisor Williams, CEO Patricia Vance needs to speak with you immediately. Janet looked at Marcus, then at the business card still in her hand, then at the crowd of witnesses recording every single moment of this unfolding drama. Dr. Voss muttered to the businessman beside her, "This is about to get very interesting." Marcus opened his briefcase and pulled out a folder. Inside were documents that would change everything, not just for him, not just for this flight, but for an entire industry. "Actually," he said to Janet, his voice carrying across the suddenly silent crowd, "there's something else you should know." Everyone leaned in. The live streams focused. Even the people in the back of the crowd pushed forward, sensing that whatever came next would be the moment everything changed. Marcus's phone buzzed with a text. "Board assembled. Awaiting your call." He looked up at Janet, at Captain Rodriguez, at Sarah who had joined them from the plane, her face a mask of growing dread. "Shall we discuss this inside?" Marcus asked. "I think you're going to want privacy for this conversation." The gate area had transformed into something like an amphitheater. Passengers sat in chairs, stood against windows, leaned against pillars. The live streams had multiplied. 4 different angles now, broadcasting to thousands of viewers who were glued to their screens watching this real-time corporate drama unfold. Marcus stood calmly in the center of it all, his briefcase open, documents arranged methodically on a nearby chair like exhibits in a courtroom. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice carrying easily across the space, "I want to apologize for the delay. I know many of you have connections to make, families waiting, business meetings scheduled." Janet Williams stood frozen, her phone showing Patricia Vance's direct number on the screen. She hadn't made the call yet. Her hand was shaking. "Before we resolve this situation," Marcus continued, "I think everyone deserves to understand what's really happening here." He pulled out a leather portfolio and opened it with deliberate care. The first document was a stock ownership certificate. 6 months ago, Chen Industries acquired a 23% stake in Atlantic Airways. The words hit like a shockwave. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone said, "No way," loud enough for everyone to hear. The live stream comments went absolutely insane. Captain Rodriguez stepped forward, his face pale. "That's impossible. I would have heard about a major acquisition like that." Marcus looked at him with those calm eyes. "Captain Rodriguez. 15 years with Atlantic Airways. Excellent safety record, by the way. I've reviewed your file." Rodriguez's face went white as snow. "You've reviewed my file?" Chen Industries reviews all key personnel files for companies in our investment portfolio. Standard due diligence. Sarah Mitchell, who'd been lurking at the edge of the crowd, trying to disappear into the background, suddenly understood the full magnitude of what she'd done. She'd discriminated against someone who effectively owned nearly a quarter of the airline. Her knees went weak. Dr. Voss lowered her phone slightly, though she kept recording. "Mr. Chen, are you saying you own part of Atlantic Airways?" 23%, Marcus confirmed, pulling out another document. "Which makes Chen Industries the second largest shareholder." He held up the next paper for everyone to see. Atlantic Airways, fiscal year 2024. Total revenue, $8.2 billion. Chen Industries investment, $1.9 billion. The businessman from first class was frantically taking notes, muttering to himself. "This is incredible. This guy isn't just wealthy, he's one of the owners of the airline." The live stream was exploding with comments faster than anyone could possibly read them. "He owns the airline. This is the best plot twist ever. Atlantic Airways is so screwed. Someone's getting fired in real time and we're watching it happen." Marcus reached into his briefcase again. "There's more context you should have." He produced a thick folder labeled Atlantic Airways Corporate Account Summary. Chen Industries books approximately 847 flights per year with Atlantic Airways. Our annual travel expenditure with this airline? $1.2 million. Janet finally found her voice, though it came out as barely a whisper. "Mr. Chen, I had no idea." "Of course you didn't," Marcus interrupted, but gently. "That's the point. A customer's treatment shouldn't depend on their net worth or their position. It should be consistent and respectful for everyone." He opened the folder and pulled out several pages, holding them up so the crowd could see. "My personal account with Atlantic Airways. Platinum status for 6 consecutive years. 340,000 miles flown. Last year alone, I took 63 flights with this airline. Captain Rodriguez was staring at the documents like they might vanish if he blinked. Sir, we had no way of knowing. Captain, that's exactly the problem, Marcus replied, his voice firm but not angry. You made assumptions based on my appearance. You never checked my credentials. You called security without verifying the facts. Sarah's voice emerged as barely a whisper. Mr. Chen, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize. Sarah Mitchell, Marcus said, consulting a document. 8 years with Atlantic Airways. Generally positive performance reviews. 2 customer complaints in your file, both involving passengers of color. The implication hung in the air like a knife suspended by a thread. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Dr. Voss stepped closer. Mr. Chen, what happens now? Marcus looked at his watch one more time. In about 90 seconds, Janet's going to get another call from headquarters. Because right now, there's an emergency board meeting happening at Atlantic Airways' main office. As if the universe itself was scripted, Janet's phone rang. The caller ID showed Patricia Vance, CEO of Atlantic Airways. Marcus nodded to her. You should take that. Put it on speaker. Janet's hands were shaking so badly, she almost dropped the phone as she answered and tapped the speaker button. Miss Vance. Janet, is Marcus Chen with you? The CEO's voice was tight, stressed, urgent. Yes, ma'am. Put him on the phone. Now. Marcus stepped forward so his voice would carry clearly. Hello, Patricia. Marcus, I just got out of an emergency board meeting. What the hell is happening at Gate 23? The crowd pressed closer. This was better than any movie, better than any TV drama. This was real, unfolding in real time. Patricia, I'm on Flight 447 to Chicago. I was denied service and removed from my paid first-class seat due to what I can only characterize as racial discrimination. Silence on the other end. You could have heard a pin drop in that terminal. Then, please tell me you're joking. I'm afraid not. The incident has been live-streamed by multiple passengers. It's trending on social media. Your stock is down 1.4% in the last hour. Jesus Christ. Marcus pulled out his phone and held up the screen so the crowd could see. Multiple social media feeds were visible, all showing the hashtag Atlantic Airways Discrimination trending nationwide, climbing the charts minute by minute. Patricia, are you familiar with Section 12.3 of our shareholder agreement? Another pause. Then, carefully, the Material Incident Clause. Correct. Discrimination against passengers constitutes a material incident that triggers a governance review. Dr. Voss whispered to the businessman next to her. He's not just complaining. He's activating legal procedures. Marcus, Patricia's voice came through the speaker, sounding defeated already. What do you need? First, I need your flight crew to understand that they've created a significant legal and public relations crisis for Atlantic Airways. Captain Rodriguez looked like he wanted to disappear through the floor. Second, I need immediate corrective action that demonstrates Atlantic Airways' commitment to equal treatment of all passengers. Whatever you need. Marcus looked around the crowd, at the phone still recording, at Janet's pale face, at Sarah who looked like she might faint at any moment. And third, Patricia, I need you to understand that this isn't about me. It's about the thousands of passengers who experience discrimination every year but don't have the resources or platform to fight back. The crowd had gone completely silent. Even the live stream comments had slowed as people absorbed what they were witnessing. Not just a complaint, not just a viral moment, but the beginning of something bigger. Marcus, I'm authorizing whatever actions you deem appropriate. Full authority. Marcus nodded, satisfied. Thank you. I'll have recommendations within the hour. He ended the call and looked around the gate area. 50 people staring at him. Multiple live streams broadcasting to thousands more. The moment hung there, suspended in time. There's one more thing you should know, Marcus said. He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a final document. This one looked different, more official, with multiple signatures and seals along the bottom. Last year, Atlantic Airways received an anonymous donation of $500,000 to fund diversity and inclusion training. He held up the document so everyone could see the letterhead. The donation came from the Chen Foundation. My foundation. The revelation hit like a thunderclap. Sarah actually gasped out loud, her hand flying to her mouth. "I've been trying to help this airline improve its culture for over a year," Marcus continued, his voice carrying to every corner of the terminal. "Today, I experienced firsthand why that help is desperately needed." The live streamer's voice came through her phone speaker, echoing slightly in the space. "Are you getting this, chat? This man has been trying to help the airline, and they discriminated against him. This is absolutely unreal." Marcus closed his briefcase with deliberate, precise movements. "Now, shall we discuss how to ensure this never happens again?" Janet's phone rang yet again. This time, the Atlantic Airways legal department. The real work was about to begin. Conference Room A at Atlantic Airways headquarters was normally a space for quarterly reviews and budget meetings. Mahogany table, leather chairs, corporate art on the walls. Today, it had become ground zero for a corporate crisis. Patricia Vance sat at the head of the table, surrounded by 8 board members, the company's legal team, and her senior vice presidents. The room's massive video wall displayed 3 separate feeds: the live stream from Gate 23, Atlantic Airways' stock chart showing that steady, sickening decline, and a Twitter analytics dashboard tracking the hashtag Atlantic Airways discrimination as it climbed higher and higher. "Patch Mr. Chen through to the main screen," Patricia ordered, her voice tight. Marcus appeared on the 75-inch display, standing calmly in the gate area with Janet Williams beside him. The crowd of passengers was still there, phones still raised, still recording everything. "Marcus, you have the floor," Patricia said. Marcus had positioned himself strategically so the crowd could hear both sides of the conversation. This wasn't going to be some private settlement discussion behind closed doors. This was transparency in real time. Public accountability. "Thank you, Patricia. Before we discuss solutions, I think the board needs to understand the full scope of what happened here." He gestured to Sarah Mitchell, who'd reluctantly joined the group at the gate podium, looking like she wished the ground would swallow her whole. "Ms. Mitchell, would you please tell the board what you said when you first approached me?" Sarah's voice was barely audible. I told you that section was for premium passengers only, despite the fact that I was holding a first-class boarding pass," Marcus added. "Yes. And when I showed you my platinum frequent flyer card?" Sarah looked at the floor. I said anyone could get those cards online." Board member David Kim leaned forward in the Chicago conference room, his expression grim. "Ms. Mitchell, what made you assume Mr. Chen's documents were fraudulent?" The question hung there, unanswerable because everyone already knew the real answer. Sarah looked around desperately, seeking any escape from a truth that everyone in both locations understood perfectly. Marcus answered for her. "I'll save Ms. Mitchell the discomfort of answering. She made assumptions based on my appearance. A black man in casual clothes couldn't possibly belong in first class." Patricia rubbed her temples like she was fighting off a massive headache. "Marcus, what are your immediate demands? Let me present the facts first. Then we'll discuss solutions." Marcus pulled out his tablet and connected it to his phone's hotspot. Within seconds, he was screen sharing with the conference room, and Dr. Voss, standing nearby, could see his screen too. Atlantic Airways financial performance, Q4 2024. Total passengers, 47.2 million. Customer satisfaction rating, 3.2 out of 5. Industry average, 3.8. The board members were taking notes frantically, pens scratching across expensive paper. Discrimination complaints filed with the Department of Transportation against Atlantic Airways in 2024, 147 complaints. That's 43% higher than the industry average. Patricia's face was grim, her jaw set. "Marcus, we weren't aware the numbers were that high. Because your complaint resolution system is designed to discourage reporting, not encourage it." Marcus pulled up another slide, and this one made several board members shift uncomfortably in their seats. Chen Industries annual travel spending breakdown. Atlantic Airways, $1.2 million. American Airlines, $800,000. Delta, $650,000. The implications were crystal clear. Atlantic Airways was getting the largest share of a multi-million-dollar corporate travel budget. However, Marcus continued, letting that word hang in the air, given today's incident, Chen Industries will be reviewing all vendor relationships for alignment with our corporate values. Board member Sarah Rodriguez spoke up quickly. Mr. Chen, what would constitute appropriate resolution from your perspective? Marcus looked around the gate area, at the passengers still watching, at the live stream still broadcasting to thousands of people, at the phones capturing every word. First, immediate termination of all personnel involved in the discriminatory actions. Sarah Mitchell's knees actually buckled. Captain Rodriguez closed his eyes slowly, accepting his fate. Second, implementation of comprehensive bias training for all customer-facing staff within 30 days. Patricia nodded quickly. Agreed. Third, establishment of an anonymous reporting system for discrimination incidents, managed by a third-party organization. Also agreed. Fourth, creation of a $500,000 fund dedicated to diversity and inclusion initiatives. The board members exchanged glances. $500,000 was significant, but not catastrophic for a company Atlantic Airways' size. And fifth, Marcus continued, his voice growing firmer, a public apology from Atlantic Airways acknowledging systemic failures in equal treatment of passengers. Patricia paused, and her legal counsel immediately leaned over to whisper urgently in her ear. She nodded grimly, then spoke. Marcus, a public apology could expose us to significant legal liability. Patricia, your current legal liability is already significant. There are approximately 4,000 people watching this conversation live right now. Your stock has dropped 2.1% in the last 2 hours. Your choice is between controlled transparency and uncontrolled crisis. More urgent whispering from legal counsel. Patricia listened, nodded again, then spoke with finality. All conditions accepted. The crowd at the gate erupted in applause. The live stream comment sections exploded with celebration emojis, clapping hands, fire symbols. But Marcus wasn't finished. There's one additional requirement, he said. The conference room fell silent. Every person in that mahogany-paneled space went still. I want real-time implementation. Not promises. Not future commitments. Changes implemented within 72 hours. That's impossible, protested the VP of Operations, Michael Torres. Union agreements, legal reviews, system updates. Marcus interrupted smoothly. Michael, I've reviewed your operational capabilities. When weather emergencies require rapid schedule changes, you can reorganize your entire system in 6 hours. When you have the will, you have the way. Patricia leaned back in her leather chair, studying the man on her screen with new respect and more than a little fear. What specifically do you need in 72 hours? Marcus pulled up another document on his tablet, reading from it like a prosecutor presenting evidence. Ms. Mitchell and Captain Rodriguez, terminated within 24 hours. Replacement training materials developed and deployed within 48 hours. Anonymous reporting system operational within 72 hours. And if we can't meet that timeline? Patricia asked, though she already knew the answer. Marcus looked directly into the camera, speaking to the board, to the crowd, to the thousands watching online. Then Chen Industries will divest our Atlantic Airways holdings and recommend that our network of partner companies do the same. The threat was devastating. Chen Industries wasn't just a large investor. They were connected to dozens of other corporations that collectively represented millions in annual travel spending. If Chen pulled out and took their network with them, Atlantic Airways would hemorrhage revenue. Board member Jennifer Walsh asked carefully, Mr. Chen, how do we know these changes will be sufficient? You don't, Marcus replied honestly. But you'll have quarterly reviews with independent auditors to track progress. Full transparency. Public reporting. Patricia looked around the conference room. Her board members were nodding, resigned to the inevitable. The legal team was scribbling notes frantically. The stock price continued its slow, steady decline on the screen. Marcus, we accept all conditions. The crowd at the gate erupted again, louder this time. Several passengers were wiping away tears. Dr. Voss was shaking her head in amazement, a slight smile on her face. But Marcus still wasn't done. There's one final element, he said quietly. Patricia's expression tightened. What do you mean? Personal accountability. Executive compensation should be tied to diversity and inclusion metrics. Starting with your compensation, Patricia. The conference room went dead silent. You could have heard a heartbeat in that space. 20% of executive bonuses tied to measurable improvements in equal treatment outcomes. Quarterly assessments. Public reporting. Patricia stared at the screen for what felt like an eternity. Around the conference table, 8 board members waited for her response. The legal team had stopped writing. Everyone was frozen. Finally, Patricia spoke. Agreed. Marcus nodded once, satisfied. Then we have a framework for moving forward. He looked around the gate area one more time. At the crowd that had grown even larger, at the phones still recording, at the faces watching history unfold in real time. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize again for the delay. However, I hope you can see that sometimes delays serve a greater purpose. The crowd broke into sustained applause, not polite clapping, but genuine, heartfelt appreciation for what they'd just witnessed. Janet Williams stepped forward, her voice shaky. Mr. Chen, what happens now? Marcus smiled for the first time since this entire ordeal began. Now, Janet, we fix the system. And we make sure every passenger is treated with dignity and respect. He looked back at the camera, at Patricia and her board. Patricia, I'll expect the implementation timeline by email within 4 hours. You'll have it in 2, she replied immediately. Marcus closed his tablet and picked up his briefcase, that same worn leather case that had started this journey. Now, I believe Flight 447 was supposed to depart 45 minutes ago. Shall we get these passengers to Chicago? The transformation was immediate and dramatic. Janet was issuing rapid-fire instructions to her staff. Sarah Mitchell was being escorted away by airport security, her head down, her career over. Captain Rodriguez was having his credentials reviewed by supervisors while a new flight crew was already being assembled. The live streamer addressed her audience one final time before boarding. Chat, I don't think I've ever seen anything like this in my life. One man just changed an entire airline's policies in real time. This is history. As Marcus finally boarded his flight, Seat 1A, first class, where he belonged all along, Dr. Voss leaned over from Seat 3B. Mr. Chen, that was incredible. How did you stay so calm through all of that? Marcus settled into his seat and opened his laptop, already moving forward to his next task. Dr. Voss, anger is temporary. Systems change is permanent. I'd rather build something lasting than just vent frustration. The plane pushed back from the gate 53 minutes late. But it was carrying more than passengers to Chicago. It was carrying the promise of change, real, tangible, measurable change that would ripple through an entire industry. 71 hours later, Marcus Chen sat in his Chicago office reviewing implementation reports from Atlantic Airways. His assistant Maria had arranged the documents chronologically on his mahogany desk, each one representing another step toward the promised transformation. The termination letters were executed yesterday, Maria reported efficiently. Sarah Mitchell and Captain Rodriguez were dismissed with cause. Janet Williams was demoted to training coordinator and will undergo mandatory sensitivity counseling. Marcus nodded, reviewing the documentation with the same calm focus he'd shown throughout the entire crisis. What about the replacement protocols? New crew training materials went live this morning. Every Atlantic Airways employee will complete 8 hours of bias recognition training within the next 30 days. The anonymous reporting system? Launched at 6 a.m. today. His phone buzzed with a news alert. Atlantic Airways stock rebounds after swift discrimination response. Shares up 3.2%. The market had responded positively to decisive action. Investors appreciated companies that addressed problems quickly rather than letting them fester and grow worse. Patricia Vance had appeared on CNBC that morning announcing the Dignity in the Skies initiative. The interview had been watched 847,000 times in just 6 hours. Mr. Chen's experience was unacceptable, she'd said, looking directly into the camera with evident sincerity. But his response showed us how to turn a failure into an opportunity for meaningful change. The anonymous reporting system had already logged its first complaint, a passenger on Flight 892 reporting discriminatory treatment by ground staff in Denver. The complaint was being investigated by a third-party firm within hours, not weeks. The system was working. Marcus's computer chimed with an incoming video call. Patricia Vance appeared on screen, looking considerably more relaxed than she had 3 days ago. Marcus, I wanted to give you the first quarterly report personally. She shared her screen, showing a comprehensive dashboard of metrics that would have made any data analyst proud. Discrimination complaints down 67% in just 3 days. Customer satisfaction surveys show marked improvement. Most importantly, we've had 12 employees proactively report bias incidents they've witnessed. Marcus leaned back in his chair, a satisfied expression crossing his face. That's the real victory, Patricia. When employees feel empowered to speak up. The training program has been requested by 6 other airlines. We're licensing it through a non-profit organization, with proceeds funding diversity scholarships. Excellent. What about the executive compensation metrics? Patricia smiled, a genuine smile this time. Board approved unanimously. 20% of all C-suite bonuses now tied to diversity and inclusion outcomes. First quarterly review is next month. Marcus pulled up his own metrics dashboard. Chen Industries tracked their vendor relationships meticulously, measuring everything from cost to quality to values alignment. Atlantic Airways is back to being our preferred airline partner, he confirmed. Chen Industries will increase our travel spending by 15% this quarter. That's wonderful news. Marcus, I have to ask, how did you know exactly what levers to pull? Marcus considered the question thoughtfully. Patricia, I've been discriminated against before. Multiple times, actually. But I've also been in boardrooms for 20 years. I understand how corporations make decisions. The key is aligning moral imperatives with business incentives. The whole incident has become a Harvard Business School case study, Patricia mentioned. They're calling it stakeholder activism in real time. After ending the call, Marcus walked to his office window overlooking Lake Michigan. The view reminded him why he loved Chicago, a city built by immigrants and outsiders who refused to accept limitations placed on them by society. His phone rang. Dr. Patricia Voss. Mr. Chen, I hope you don't mind me calling. I got your number from your foundation's website. Not at all, Dr. Voss. How can I help you? I wanted to tell you that what you did inspired me to take action in my own workplace. Her voice was energized, excited. I'm head of emergency medicine at Northwestern Memorial. We've had our own issues with bias in patient treatment. I presented your Atlantic Airways case to our board last week. Marcus smiled. What was their response? We're implementing a similar anonymous reporting system for bias incidents, and we're requiring all staff to complete unconscious bias training. Your approach, using data and systematic change rather than individual blame, it really resonated. That's exactly what needs to happen, Marcus replied, feeling genuine satisfaction. One incident becomes a catalyst for broader change. The medical community is calling it the Chen Protocol, using documented discrimination incidents to drive institutional reform rather than just individual punishment. After Dr. Voss hung up, Marcus reviewed the broader impact metrics his team had compiled. The hashtag Dignity in the Skies had been used 47,000 times across social media platforms. Marcus concluded with a direct challenge, his voice ringing with conviction. Don't just watch injustice happen. Don't just feel bad about it. Do something about it. Use the tools we've developed. Use the systems we've built. Help us create a world where everyone travels with dignity. The screen displayed the Transportation Equality Foundation's website and reporting tools, making it easy for anyone watching to take action immediately. Share this message. Tell your friends about these resources. Stay informed about our progress. Because together, we can ensure that what happened on Flight 447 was the last time, not just another time. The standing ovation lasted 5 full minutes. Because everyone in that room, and everyone watching online, understood something profound. One moment can change everything. One person can spark a revolution. One decision to stand your ground can transform an entire industry. Marcus Chen didn't move to the back of that plane. And because of that choice, millions of people now fly with more dignity, more respect, more equality. So here's my challenge to you watching this right now. What's your Flight 447 moment going to be? When will you decide that enough is enough? When will you document, stand up, and demand the change you want to see? Because the world is waiting for your story, your courage, your voice. Don't wait for someone else to fix the system. Be the person who changes it. If this story moved you, if it made you think differently about discrimination, about power, about change, then share it. Talk about it. Let it inspire you to action. And remember, dignity isn't something we should have to fight for. But when we do fight for it, we don't just win for ourselves. We win for everyone who comes after us. That's how real change happens. One brave decision at a time. But more importantly, it had spawned 12 copycat initiatives at other transportation companies. Greyhound had announced their own bias training program. Amtrak had hired a chief diversity officer. 3 major hotel chains had implemented anonymous reporting systems. The ripple effect was spreading. His assistant brought in a stack of letters from passengers who had experienced similar discrimination. Each letter shared a story, thanked Marcus for speaking up, and many included documentation of their own incidents. One letter stood out, handwritten on lined paper. It was from a young black woman named Angela Thompson, a recent MBA graduate. Mr. Chen, I was on United Flight 237 last month and experienced almost identical treatment to yours. But I didn't have your resources or platform. I just endured it and filed a complaint that went nowhere. Watching your live stream showed me that discrimination doesn't have to be accepted silently. I'm now working with the ACLU to document systematic bias in airline treatment. Thank you for showing that change is possible. Marcus added Angela's letter to a growing file. Her case would become part of a larger class action lawsuit that would ultimately force industry-wide changes. The true measure of success wasn't just Atlantic Airways' reforms. It was the ripple effect across an entire industry, touching millions of lives. 3 months later, the Department of Transportation announced new federal guidelines requiring airlines to track and publicly report discrimination complaints. The regulations were nicknamed the Atlantic Airways Rules, after the incident that sparked them. Marcus received a call from Transportation Secretary Michael Rodriguez, no relation to the terminated captain, thanking him for providing the political momentum needed to implement comprehensive anti-discrimination regulations. 6 major airlines have already adopted your recommended protocols voluntarily rather than wait for federal mandates, the secretary told him. The Chen Foundation had expanded its focus to transportation equality, funding legal representation for passengers facing discrimination. In 6 months, they'd supported 43 cases across airlines, bus companies, and rideshare services. Marcus often reflected on that moment when Sarah Mitchell first told him to move to the back of the plane. That single incident of discrimination had become a catalyst for systematic change affecting millions of travelers every single day. But the most satisfying outcome? That was personal. Last month, Marcus had flown Atlantic Airways Flight 447 again. Same route. Same aircraft type. Full circle. The flight attendant, a young black man named David, had welcomed him aboard with genuine respect and warmth. Mr. Chen, it's an honor to have you flying with us today. Is there anything I can do to make your flight more comfortable? Marcus had looked around the first-class cabin and noticed the diversity. Different races, ages, clothing styles, all being treated with equal professionalism and respect. David, you're already doing everything perfectly. That was the real victory. Not the corporate policy changes. Not the media attention. Not the stock price recovery. It was the simple fact that the next passenger who looked like Marcus, or didn't look like him, would be treated with dignity. The transformation was complete. The system had changed. 2 years after Flight 447, Marcus Chen stood at the podium of the National Civil Rights Museum in Memphis, delivering the keynote address for their annual Transportation Equality Summit. The auditorium was packed with 800 attendees, airline executives, civil rights lawyers, government officials, activists, students. But Marcus could see beyond the crowd to the millions watching the live stream worldwide. Change doesn't require violence, he told the audience, his voice carrying to every corner of that historic space. It doesn't require lawsuits or protests or public shaming. It requires documentation, leverage, and systematic thinking. He clicked to his first slide, a graph showing discrimination complaints across all major airlines. Since the Atlantic Airways incident, airline discrimination complaints have dropped by 71% industry-wide. Not because discrimination disappeared overnight, but because airlines implemented systems to prevent it. The graph showed a dramatic decline starting in late 2025, continuing through 2026 and into 2027. A downward curve that represented thousands of people traveling with dignity who might have been humiliated before. This is what happens when you change systems instead of just punishing individuals. The audience included Sarah Mitchell, sitting near the back. After her termination, she'd undergone extensive bias training and now worked as a diversity consultant, helping other companies avoid the mistakes she'd made. Redemption was possible for those willing to do the work. She raised her hand during the Q&A session. Mr. Chen, I'm Sarah Mitchell. I was the flight attendant on Flight 447. A murmur rippled through the crowd. This was unexpected. Powerful. Sarah, Marcus said warmly, genuinely. Thank you for being here. I wanted to publicly apologize again. But more importantly, I wanted to thank you. Your response changed my life. I understand now how my unconscious biases hurt people. I've spent 2 years learning to be better. The crowd erupted in applause, genuine, heartfelt appreciation for someone brave enough to face their mistakes publicly. Sarah, your courage in facing your mistakes and working to prevent others from making them is exactly what this movement needs, Marcus said sincerely. He clicked to his final slide, a photo of Angela Thompson, the young woman who'd written to him after her own discrimination experience. Angela Thompson used documentation and legal advocacy to win a landmark settlement against United Airlines. That settlement funded bias training for 47,000 airline employees across the industry. The audience stood and applauded as Angela walked onto the stage, tears in her eyes. Angela's case proved that you don't need to be a CEO or a major shareholder to create change. You just need to be willing to document injustice and demand accountability. Marcus looked directly into the live stream camera, speaking to everyone watching around the world. These stories remind us that change happens when ordinary people refuse to accept discrimination as normal. When we document injustice systematically. When we demand accountability from institutions. When we use our economic power strategically. He paused, letting those words sink deep. Every person watching this has experienced unfair treatment or witnessed it happening to others. Your stories matter. Your documentation matters. The live stream chat was flowing with personal experiences, commitments to action, expressions of gratitude and determination. If you've witnessed discrimination in transportation, document it. Record it. Report it. Share your stories. Because these stories become the foundation for systematic change.